There were over 19,000 new games released last year on Steam, and it goes without saying that there's going to be some games that are going to slip through the cracks that you're probably going to miss. And so this list is my attempt to show off some of those games that's not necessarily just last year, over the last few years, that have come out that seem to have gone unnoticed. And these are games that I enjoyed thoroughly, and I have videos on them on the channel. But I will show off what I can and maybe reveal some games that you will find that you didn't know about. Starting with number 1, Sector Unknown. This is a solo-developed isometric sci-fi RPG set in the shadowy expanse of space. You're a hero. You'll eventually get yourself a party and sort of traverse different planets and ships and go out through the RPG style of thing, making your way through the sci-fi story. This is by Creative Storm Entertainment. It came out in early access last July, but it's sitting here at a whole 133 reviews right now. Next up, we have Kingdom Dungeon and Hero. This one is a little couple things. You got a war game on one side, and you also have an adventure game on the other. You are dealing with a hex-based war game, fantasy armies, goblins and dwarves and undead armies and all this kind of stuff as a traditional war game, hex-based, dealing with all that on one side, but also you're hiring heroes, clerics and barbarians and things to go and traverse dungeons, and you got this sort of like mini game on the side where you collect relics and kind of help out your armies and leaders with those adventuring going on the side. Interesting game, interesting concept. Came out here in 2024 by Kraken Studios and sitting at a whole 152 reviews right now. Next up, we'll go a little bit further back. This is Transcendence. This one came out back in 2015, and you are a spaceship. Your job in this open world space adventure is to traverse the galaxy and eventually make your way to the center of the galaxy is the whole story here. But of course, it's a very open world kind of a thing, and you're fast-paced trying to traverse these various star systems, making your way through the place. A bunch of different factions in the game. Very open world sandboxy kind of a thing by Chronosaur Productions. Another oldie, we got Ballroom here. Oldie, I say, is in 10 years old. This is an old school, turn-based, open-world RPG, deep tactical combat, a very old-timey kind of RPG. You're a hero running out into the world, completing quests, killing zombies, that kind of a thing. But also, it has a side area where you go in and you can actually build a house and do farming and do the kind of sandboxy, almost like farming sim kind of crafting things that you can do in other games. But then when you're done with that, you go back out in the dungeons, hacking and slashing. This is came out again in 2016 by Balcony Softworks. Ninth Dawn Remake came out here in 2024. This is a open world action adventure hack and slash by Valorware. This, I am putting it in the list because, I thoroughly enjoyed this one in 2024 when I played it. And there's so much in this game. It's not just run around hack and slash like a typical dungeon crawling thing. It's got all these other various mini games in there, like a fishing mini game and a card game you can play in taverns. You can also have this whole pet collecting thing going on. Each one of those things could basically be its own game, all packed into this one. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Again, I've got videos on all these, of course, and I'll have links to all those videos if you want to see more on these games. I'm going to go kind of fast because I got 40 games here on this list. And so if you want to see more of them, I got links there. And also I'll have in the description, I'll have links to the Steam pages if you want to see more about them. Next up, though, is the game that actually inspired this list, and that is Selig. Selig is one of those games that came out a long time ago, and every time I see it, I say, oh yeah, Selig, that's a fun game. I should play that again. It's been here almost 10 years by AdaCorp Games. This is a medieval sandbox. You got a medieval settlement. You are just a person in that settlement. You're not the leader of the town. You're not commanding peasants around or anything. You are just a fella that's going out to do some job, whether you're a farmer or a rancher or the village priest or a bandit. And you go out, get yourself a wife, family, have yourself a little dynasty of like a medieval sandbox business sim, really, if you think of it that way. It's got some strategy elements, some RPG stuff in there, and of course the business management stuff to it. But it came out way back in 2017, almost hit that 1,000 reviews. I have a metric here that I've not gone over 1,000 reviews on any of these. I figure if it's got over 1,000, it's known. But this one being out for 9 years now with under 1,000 reviews, I think it's one of those unsung hidden games, hidden gems here on Steam. Next up, we got Guild Saga Vanished Worlds. This one, you've got a bunch of islands. It's kind of this piratey style CRPG. Feels kind of like a JRPG at times. You, in your party, venture across a bunch of different islands in this very pretty pixel arts and spell effects. It's good stuff. But came out here in 2024 by Ocelot. The Captain is next up. Came out back in 2021. This almost feels like a LucasArts game, a retro-inspired adventure game. You are, of course, a captain. You got yourself a ship, and you got to deal with your ship. You also are going to be bouncing from like starbase to starship to planet, and completing these sort of point-and-click adventure things within that, with, of course, a lot of open and multiple options, multiple endings style of point-and-click adventure by Sisiak Games back in 2021. This is one of those games that I played where I planned on playing for like 30 minutes, and I ended up playing a whole lot more than that and showing off. I think I got multiple videos on this one. Zorbus is up next, a fantasy-themed, tile-based, turn-based, traditional roguelike. And it's a roguelike. If you like the old traditional roguelikes like Tome or in Dungeon Crawl, whatever, any of those traditional roguelikes, that's what this one does, and it does it well. Zorbus is the name of the game. It's also the name of the developer. Came out in 2022. There's nothing like too complicated about this one. A lot of those old roguelikes are very complicated, knowing your keybinds and stuff. This one's, it's all on the screen. It's very easy to get into, which is what I appreciated about Zorbus back when I played it. We've got Shadows of Forbidden Gods. We're going like 4X style here, where you are a dark elder god. You and your agents, your citizens, if you want to think of it that way, as in 4X strategy terms, turn-based style, are going out to try to bring about the apocalypse in this fantasy world. You and there's other gods out doing the same thing. So you got plagues and famine and all kinds of volcanoes and all the terrible things that are going on in the world that you are basically in charge of. You and your minions are trying to grow your power to consume the world. Interesting game by Bobby Two Hands. Came out here back in 2023, which almost has that 1,000 review mark, but not quite. 988. Telestians is a classic turn-based strategy game. It's a war game. If you remember the old game Warlords, which came out forever ago, it's highly inspired by that. You're going to choose a kingdom and crank out a bunch of units at war game style and just flood the map with your units, whether it be unicorns or dwarves or elves or whatever. And in this auto-battler fighty system, but turn-based movement and moving across the map, building armies, searching ruins, conquering castles by Lucid. And it came out back here in 2022. It has a total of 24 reviews, but I thoroughly enjoyed it when I played it. Belfortis came out here just last year, June 19th. It is a strategy game from the early Middle Ages. You are taking control of an early Middle Ages kingdom, and with light strategy as far as building up your provinces and then building up armies and then sending those armies off to various other provinces. Again, you got turn-based style world map dealings, and then you go into the combat and it's auto battler with minimal choices from you, but you get to see the big armies sort of crashing into each other. It is by Rake in Grass, but this has a whole 107 reviews, and is one of my favorite games of the year last year. Fabled Lands is up next, a challenging old-school narrative RPG. Open world, it feels like you're playing D&D, just a solo D&D, where you're going to have yourself a character, a hero, and you will sort of venture through a bunch of quests, very story-driven quests. And as you are rolling the dice trying to complete these things and help people out or whatever, it then goes into like a turn-based tactical fight system, where you'll be going through this sort of tactical combat. And interesting game, a lot of fun. Came out back in 2022 by Prime Games, and it is sitting at 500 reviews at the moment. Module War also came out last year in 2025, and this is an RTS, an organic RTS they are calling it, where typically in an RTS you've got you got your main base, you got your barracks, you've got your towers, and you sort of build units amongst that. Well, those are your units, as you are a big amoeba thing, a big creature, an alien creature. And so you sort of move as a swarm across the map. You can detach parts of your body and try to complete in this complete the game in this RTS style, where your organs are going out and going through the map. It sounds weird. It has incredible cutscenes, and I would recommend it for the cutscenes alone. But it came out here in 2025 with not even 100 reviews. Good game. but needs more attention. Crawl Tactics is up next, a classic turn-based tactics. It has roguelike progression. There's like 2 game modes on this one. You've got a dungeon mode where you go in and you move from zone to zone with your classic turn-based tactical game, fantasy style. It also has this quest mode where you're like building up a village, you're training your units up, and you've got like invasions coming in. Interesting game. Interesting that it has 2 different parts to this, typically a classic turn-based kind of a thing. But it is by Iceville, came out in 2022, and it has 175 reviews. Needs a lot more than that. We got a couple here from Slitherine. We got Field of Glory Kingdoms, which came out back in 2024. This is like that grand strategy style, where a map game, essentially, where you are controlling one kingdom on the map and slowly growing your provinces by dealing with each individual zone, moving your armies across, and slowly but surely, as time goes on, making your way across the map and painting the map your color. This is by Ageod. Slitherine is just publishing it, but it came out in 2024. The other Slitherine game that I've got on the list here is Field of Glory 2, which came out again back in 2017. This is a little bit further back. This is Ancient Era, and where that last one was a grand strategy map game, this is a war game. Tactics, turn-based tactical game. And your army fills up the field, and you've got Romans and Carthaginians and Gaul and all that stuff. Those are the kind of armies you are fighting in this turn-based tactical game. By Byzantine Games for this one. The Monster Breeder is up next. I put this on my list last year, favorite games. It was on my list for the strangest game that I played all year. It's a weird one. It's a turn-based fantasy gladiator game, but with monster breeding. So you are collecting monsters up like bugs and lions and whatever else, and you're breeding them together to create some sort of atrocities that you will use to send out into gladiator events and fight them in a gladiator thing. So you go to your ludus or your area and you build up your creatures and you crossbreed them and you equip them with various things. Then you go to the gladiator den and you let them fight it out. By Fantasy Creations, it's a weird one, but it's a lot of fun. Came out last year in May by Fantasy Creations with a whole 251 reviews. Gadonia 2 is up next. This is an open world sandbox RPG. Feels like you're playing like World of Warcraft, but single player. You're out just running across the town. You can even like go out and build your own house if you want, and completing quests as an individual hero. There's multiplayer in here. You can have 4 players up on this one. But it came out here last year as well by Oleg Kazakov, single developer on this one with 700 reviews at the moment. The Doors of Trithias is up next, an open-world RPG roguelike by Jake Donkersgood. Came out in 2021 with 785 reviews. This feels like, if you played Stone Shard, it feels a lot like Stone Shard. However, it's got like this living world, and so you can go out into the world, the overmap, and so there's all the different factions that are slowly growing, and the dynamic thing going on. You may step into a goblin invasion in a certain town as you're there, or you may see factions changing. Also, you're running around completing quests, running through dungeons in this like traditional roguelike style. Mashinki is up next, a transport strategy game about trains. All about trains. You're building a transport empire, procedurally generated map. Jan Zeleny, who is developing this one, I feel like he's just a guy who just really likes trains. And so when you play the game, that's the impression I get every time I play it. It's just a guy who really likes trains, who made a game about trains. And of course, you can move through the ages, starting with Steam and working your way up to the modern trains now. And it's always a good time if you're into like these sort of transport management kind of games. But it came out back in 2018, sitting at 928 reviews, just under 1,000. Odd Realm is up next. This is a colony sim, a fantasy colony sim by Unknown Origin Games. Came out back in 2024. And you're building a colony. You know, we've seen this before, like Dwarf Fortress. It's inspired by something like that. Or RimWorld, you get this top-down colony sim style of thing. Whether you're digging into a mountain or you're like life-stealing race that they've got in the game. There's a lot of different factions that you can play as, which play very differently. Whereas if you play in Dwarf Fortress, dwarves, you know what they do. But this one, you've got these other factions that all play very differently, whether you're building a town outside or digging underground with the dwarves. It is a classic fantasy colony sim. Came out back in 2024 at full release, and it's sitting at 919 reviews right now. Crossover Roll for Initiative is the next one on the list. This is another one of those weird ones, and it is by Getaruz, and published by Microprose. So you got yourself a character, but your character is a character sheet. And things are invading your character sheet and attacking your character sheet. You're dealing with that, trying to defend against that kind of tower defense style a bit. But you're also playing this little mini game on the side, trying to collect up dice to fight back against those things. It's hard to explain. It's a strange one. It's a lot of fun. And at the moment, even though it came out 2 years ago, it is sitting at 39 total reviews. Stellar Warfare is on the list next with base building and ship customization. This is a RTS, space RTS. Lots and lots of ships. It's a very pretty game by Tense Games. Came out in 2021. You build yourself a fleet. You customize your fleet. A lot of customizing going on with your fleet, and you build yourself a base in RTS style. You fight against other space ships and space fleets. There's campaign mode. There's multiplayer mode. It's all here. It's by Tense Games. Came out in 2021. Sagres, get yourself a boat. We are sailing today. This is Explore the Seven Seas with Sagres here by Ooze is the developer. Came out in 2023. You got pirates. You can eventually go off the water and onto the land and do exploring on the land. You hire a crew, and there's a whole bunch of little mini games in this as well as you're sort of traversing the 17th, 18th century, somewhere in there. Age of Discovery with this one. It's like pirates, but you can also go off land, explore, fight, all that good stuff. Zoria, Age of Shattering, came out back in 2024. Squad-based tactical RPG. Turn-based combat. You get yourself a party, CRPG style, and traverse through dungeons in the open world or whatever. It's real-time as you move around the map, but then when you get into fights, it switches over to a turn-based tactical style of game. By Tiny Trinket Games. Came out in 2024. Pretty vast world with this one as well. Kenga Seeds of Civilization is a village builder, a roguelite village builder, they call it, where you're like a clan leader, a tribal leader, and you're building a tribe. Your tribe is building houses and all these different things in the land, and the whole game revolves around you on these maps, building your tribe, but there's other tribes out there doing their thing as well, and your job is to beat those tribes and win the game. It is by Eric Rempen, a solo dev, published by Silk Softworks, and it came out here in 2022 with 632 reviews at the moment. Next up is Rising Lords, a medieval turn-based strategy game with card and board elements, where you are dealing with your province by building up your province with lumber mills and things, and slowly using those resources, you're giving bows and spears and things to build up your army to go take out other provinces. If you remember Lords of the Realm from forever ago, it's highly inspired by that, and you can see a lot of similarities there if you remember Lords of the Realm. If you don't remember Lords of the Realm, it's a medieval turn-based strategy game. Build your army up, slowly work your way out to conquering other provinces. Came out in 2024. It's got 872 whole reviews for this one by Argonwood. The Faraway Land is an open-world survival simulator. It's got this voxel art style to it. You are a hero running around a very vast world. It's kind of a slow-paced thing. If you want to think of it like a Minecraft from a little bit different perspective, that probably fits. There's a lot more questing in the game, though, as well, but you can also spend most of your time hanging out, crafting, and building up your house and your little land. But then you go off into quests and down into dungeons and survive, craft, all that good stuff. By Firetail, came out in 2024 with 73 reviews. Welcome back, Commander. This is by 16-Bit Nights, came out in 2025. That's just last year. It has a whole 200 reviews right now. So this one, a big plague has hit, and zombies are about. So your job is to, as Commander, build your strike team, send them into various missions, pull out as much resources as you can, and then get out. You can't get everything. You got to choose what you can get because the swarm is coming in, and you got to fight back against the swarm, be quick enough to get all the supplies you can to get back out, so then you can go to the next mission. Extraction, I suppose, would be the extraction roguelike, might be the word for it. But it's a tactical, fast-paced, stressful game by 16-Bit Nights. Approaching Infinity is a turn-based space RPG in the spirit of the sci-fi classics by IBOL. You are a spaceship, and that spaceship's going to progress across several zones of space, whether you're stopping at planets or space stations, and then you send away your way team to go out and complete things on the planet side or on space station side, I suppose. You can both upgrade your ship, you can upgrade your away team, and you're kind of living the space life, completing various quests and things around the galaxy by questing or mining, trading, crafting. You can level up forever, it says here on the Steam page. By IBOL, came out in 2025, and it has 664 reviews. Stellar Monarch 2 is a feudal space empire builder. You feel like an emperor. Yeah, so this one is like Crusader Kings, but in space, where instead of dealing with micromanaging your empire by controlling your armies from planet to planet or system to system, you're like the emperor, and so people are going to come to you, ask you questions, and you sort of delegate things that way, and you make your decisions that way from the throne room, essentially. And you've got different people that are trying to stab you in the back, trying to marry folks off, assassins, rebels, all that good stuff. By Silver Lemur Games, came out here in 2022, and it has a whole 116 reviews. Going back a little bit with Nantucket this time. This is in the world of Moby Dick. You are a whaling vessel, and your job is just kind of sandbox style, run across the map with your crew, hire a crew, fix up your sailing vessel, your ship, and make some money by getting yourself some whales, selling the stuff, a bit of a trading sim in there. But again, it's all within the Moby Dick storyline. With it, you are Ishmael, and you've got to deal with, I think the final boss is Moby Dick in this thing, if you kind of follow through the story. But it's an interesting one. One, again, that I thought I'd play for just a little bit, but I ended up playing a whole bunch of this one by Picaresque Games. Came out way back in 2018, but it's sitting at only 768 reviews. 6 Ages Ride Like the Wind is up next. A storybook strategy game. You're like the leader of this tribe set in Glorantha. It follows the events of King of Dragon Pass, if you're familiar with that one. There's 3 games, actually, in this series here. And while being the tribe leader, you run through this story and the story of your tribe, hiring different people. People will grow and die, and you'll bring new people in. You'll expand your tribe. You go out and send them on expeditions to explore and diplomacy and fight and go to war. It's an interesting one. It's a lot of fun. I played this one a ton. I got a whole series on this one on the channel, and came out by A Sharp, published by Kit Fox, and it's sitting at 448 reviews. I think each one of these, King of Dragon Pass, 6 Ages, and 6 Ages 2, all are under that 1,000 review mark. And it's really a fun game. It's, if you like playing, it's sort of like Choose Your Own Adventure, but a little more active than that. But it's been here on Steam for quite a long time. Goblins of Elderstone is next up, a goblin tribe simulator. This is a colony sim where you are a tribe of goblins, and your job is to build up your town by, town hall and lumber mill and all that stuff, all while trying to deal with all the terrible things out there, wolves and humans that live out in the world that want to come chop your little head off. But your job is to build yourself a town, all while dealing with all of that, the threats out there in the world. This is by Out of Dawn and Lost Goblin. It came out here in 2023. In full release in 2023. It's been out forever. This game came out, I think I've been playing this one early access since like the beginnings of my channel. But it is still sitting here with only 291 reviews. Winter Falling is next up. You're leading troops in tense tactical battles. So you got to go out in this dying world, build yourself a mercenary company, scavenge supplies, build an army, and go on some quests. The main game, though, is in the battle mode, where you and your army is not the prettiest thing to look at, top-down view, and turn by turn, you clash with your little square armies. But it ends up being a lot of fun, and after you complete that, you roam across a map from battle to battle by Raricos Games, or Raricos, and it came out here in 2022 with only 426 reviews. So that's all of my very unknown games. I got 2 more here, though, at the end of the list that I wanted to mention. They're above that 1,000 review mark that I tried to keep myself limited to, but I was really surprised with how few reviews these 2 games have, because they should have more, and they're fantastic games. I thought they're a lot more popular than they are, but I want to make sure I mention them. Noble Fates is the first one here. It is a fantasy kingdom management sim by Zoberman. Came out in 2021. It's only got 1,300 reviews at the moment. A lot of detail in here, and it's been in development for a long time, and they just had an update just came out. But if you're into like RimWorld, Dwarf Fortress, those kinds of going medieval, those kinds of colony sim fantasy things, that's what this is. And it has this whole like an emphasis on the individual, your citizens. They all have feelings, they all have wants and needs, and they may run out and join other tribes. There's this whole world map where you have to deal with them, diplomacy out with other factions out in the world, and you may see the same names pop up as they leave your kingdom or they come back and as a bandit or whatever. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I thought it was more popular than it is, but with only 1,000 reviews, it needs more than that. This is a good one. Last one on the list is Conquest of Elysium 5, a quick turn-based fantasy strategy game with a touch of roguelike. So I mentioned this one here because I'm surprised it only has 1,400 reviews. This is by Illwinter Game Design. I think Conquest of Elysium maybe gets overlooked because I think Dominions, if you're familiar with Dominions, is the more popular of the Illwinter Game Design games. It's much more complex. It is bigger scale. It's a lot of fun. However, I think Conquest of Elysium is the one that tends to get overlooked because it's a much simpler and a much more scaled down version of Dominions, where you build yourself an army, fantasy army style, conquer towns, build up units, and send your armies across the map. It's a ton of fun, and I'm surprised it has so few reviews compared to something like Dominions or any other fantasy games like this. But you've got your same factions. You got your kobolds or your dwarves or your humans and your elves, and with each faction you conquer the world, but it's much faster paced than something like Dominions. And I was surprised to see it only had 1,400 reviews, and I want to make sure I mention it. Obviously, it's the fifth one, Conquest of Elysium 5, so clearly there's a following for these kinds of games. But I want to make sure it gets mentioned in this list. But that's it. There is 40 games that you probably haven't heard of that need more attention that have been released over the last few years. I'm sure there's a lot that I have missed. I know there is because my list was a lot bigger and I had to narrow it down to get it this small. But if there's some games that you are familiar with that you think are great that don't have any reviews that no one seems to know about, let me know. Put it in the comments. Don't put a link. YouTube doesn't like links. Just put the game name, and I will look into it. That's what my whole channel is all about, is trying to find these unknown things, and I would love to hear them. So if you've got it, let me hear it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.